Okay, folks, I'm back. Sorry about that. I know Tom Patton is incredibly better looking than I am, but oh well, you're stuck with me, and that's all there is to it. Once again, we are live on the floor of the 55th Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show at the Gaylord National Harbor just across the river from Washington, D.C., and the various postal palaces that we have to deal with on a daily basis, including our friends at the FAA. We've had this incredibly great week to talk about innovation and technology and all the ways that avionics in particular enrich the aviation community and by default the rest of the world, because let's face it, the world runs, especially the critical aspects of the world, based on what aviation can do for it. I've had the opportunity over a number of years and months to talk to the folks at Becker Avionics, and we've had a really great time talking about some really amazing technologies. They do some great stuff with audio panels. They've got some really great small gear for where you got, cockpits where nothing else fits. They're doing some amazing work in the SAR community. We've got some great Aero-TV pieces that we shot at HAI that are coming up. But we're going to put Floyd Roney on the hot seat right now and talk a little bit about where Becker is at the moment. It's a company that, unless you need them, you don't necessarily hear about them, but you certainly should, because they've got their hands in on some really great technology, some very high quality gear, and more important, when you're mission specific, these are folks that you need to talk to. Floyd, first of all, welcome to Aero-TV.
Thank you.
Floyd, give me a background. For those who may not understand, what is Becker Avionics? What does it do? What's your mission statement, if you will?
Sure. Well, Becker Avionics specializes in communication, navigation, and surveillance, as well as intercom. Of course, their history comes from analog intercom, but really the future for Becker is now in digital technology.
Now, we've had a chance to take a look at a number of product lines. Right now, your main thrust is behind the DVCS 6100. Talk about this system and this series.
It's an absolutely fabulous product. It's being very well received in the search and rescue, airborne law enforcement, and military special missions environment. Basically, it provides crystal clear communication, extremely flexible configurability. It has a reduced weight capability that comes along with it, and it provides just a plethora of options and available configurations.
Now, you've got to work with some very demanding customers. You're talking about mission-specific applications with high degrees of criticality. You're dealing with government, law enforcement agencies in some case, various government agencies. This is tough stuff. When you're dealing with customers who can literally shoot back, that's kind of a big deal. How do you make a living dealing with such discriminating, such tough customers?
Absolute customer service.
Okay.
Almost every single installation, you'll probably see, at least if it's a first time installation, you will see a Becker engineer or a Becker specialist at the installation, actually helping the customer set it up, go through the configuration, and help pick and choose what options work best for them.
Outstanding. Now, when you talk about, a lot of what you're doing are very customized, very specific installations. I was looking at some of the materials that you'd sent me on some amazing law enforcement and military installations. This is not small change. These are big deals. These are not things that hey, I need a box and it's got to go in here and throw it in, and 2 days later you got a quick and easy sign off. This requires some serious engineering expertise.
Absolutely. That's why that system flexibility is so important, because customers have so many different needs. Really, the digital audio system is fairly ubiquitous. In fact, we've already launched a general aviation version of it as well. But for customers that have specific needs, our system's configurability allows us to customize it to anybody's needs.
A customer comes to you, has a tough application, a tough mission to do. What's that process like? I know it's got to start with a phone call. Hey, can you make me do this?
Yeah.
What's that process like? What do you bring to bear? What kind of assets does Becker bring to this process?
Well, we have a great deal of experience. My personal experience, for example, is in fixed wing. We have 2 rotorcraft specialists. They're pilots and operators. Lee Benson, our sales guy in California, has got 16,000 hours in a rotorcraft. Also,
that's serious time.
Yeah, that's some serious time. Probably way up there among the top.
Okay.
And then, of course, you've got Luis Gonzalez, our VP of Operations, is also an engineer. These guys travel the world extensively, talking to customers, getting feedback on what their needs are, and helping them with the simple installation.
What's the difference between working with, say, a law enforcement agency with a specific need and the military? There's got to be a real interesting change in mindsets, and the processes just have to be incredibly arduous when you start working up the step ladder of bureaucracy.
As far as the installation is concerned, you mean?
Well, but not just the installation, but configuring what a customer wants. I'm sure with the military they've got a lot of specific ideas and so forth, but ultimately you're the folks that have to make it work.
Sure. Well, you know, in airborne law enforcement, air medical, and small government programs, really one system can do everything they need because it's going to handle up to 8 transceivers and 8 receivers. But if you get into a much more complex program that has deeper requirements, you can actually install 2 remote electronic units and double up the system. That's really all it takes. It's quite a lot simpler than you'd think.
Interesting. I realize it's a little bit off what we would normally rep here at AEA, but I was fascinated by the work you were doing with SAR systems. I've got 2 nephews who both come out of the Navy who are SAR swimmers and working in that area, and it's an area as a helicopter pilot that I've always been interested in watching my compatriots and the folks who are doing amazing work under, I mean, the worst circumstances in the world. So SAR technology and the systems and support for that have to be incredibly critical. Can you talk a little bit about Becker's SAR offerings and what you're doing and what the future is for those for that product line?
Certainly. Well, one of the newest products that we're very, very excited about is the Polycon wireless intercom system.
Saw that.
It's actually designed by a rescue swimmer from Norway. It's been awarded several awards over the years for its outstanding performance. Basically, it's a hands-free communication system over a UHF that allows the crew external of the aircraft, whether it be somebody on the end of a basket or a hook, or somebody who has to run across the ramp, allows them to stay in intercom communication with everybody inside the ship.
Well, these are circumstances where things have already gone wrong, and you're in a situation where you've got really tough circumstances. I would imagine the testing and evaluation process has to be brutal. I mean, what do you do to test for the worst of circumstances? That's just got to be. I can't even conceive of what of how twisted your mind has to be to think about worst case scenarios.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about having a rescue swimmer on the design team.
Yeah, he's already seen the best and worst.
That's right. He's already been there.
Yeah.
They know what kind of environment they're dealing with. They've been there for a long time, and they can actually go out and field test the product to make sure that it's going to fulfill the mission.
Do you have any good real-world stories about how this gear is being implemented at this point?
Well, actually, because most of it's been implemented in Europe so far, I don't have any real personal feedback on it, but it's something that we're trying to bring into the Western Hemisphere now, seeing a lot of great excitement. We've talked to police forces that have talked about the ability to be able to jump out of the helicopter temporarily for whatever reason it might be. We've talked about with Coast Guard and search and rescue, the ability to eliminate the hand symbols needed to communicate and to be able to have both hands available for a rescue rather than have one.
Yeah. As I said, I've got 2 nephews who've done the job, and the stories these kids have, and mind you, they were in their early 20s, they're in great shape, unlike yours truly. Yeah. And dealing with these things, but the criticality of what has to be done, let's face it, they lived and died by the virtue of how good the communications were.
Right.
And thankfully, because they were working with the U.S. Navy and had the best gear in the world and the best support in the world, they survived a really strenuous process. I mean, they were all over the world. Yeah. I just can't imagine ultimately what you really have to think about. But yeah, hands-free, big deal. Yeah, real big deal.
Absolutely, and the criticality of the equipment, how well it can work. Here's an example for you. The wireless system is designed to work over the UHF frequency. So that gives it under an average circumstance about 5 to 10 mile range. What's really important about that is when you have a rescue swimmer in the water, they're going to drift. Right. If there's an interchange of aircraft where one has to go back because of low fuel, another one comes in, everybody stays in communication. if both systems are
Oh,
both
wow.
aircraft are
Okay.
operated. Yeah, so they can keep track of the swimmer even when they're not eyes on.
Yeah. For the swimmer in the water, that's got to be awfully comforting.
Yeah, I bet it would be.
What's the future for Becker? What markets are you eyeing? Where does this all go? I mean, you've got a product that's got high praise right now. In the audio system, I can't mention him by name probably because of where he works, but he was talking about your engineering folks just doing a wizard job on a Eurocopter installation that apparently was a lot more complicated than it should have been based on the operation. But what are you looking for in the future? How do you develop your market?
Really, the next market for us is going to be in business general aviation. We see in the turboprop market, loud noise environments, King Airs on up. And digital is where it's at. Even the OEMs that build suites are now, entirely digital. So we see digital as the way to go, even in the retrofit market. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, no, you've got just amazingly and interestingly diverse product line. We've looked to you in the past for some really tiny comm gear and things of that nature. You name it, you've got just really some great cool stuff to work with. I'm looking forward to seeing what you develop along those lines. Floyd, before we leave you, one of the things we've been doing with all the folks that have been coming through here is your impression of AEA 2012, the state of the industry. I mean, you've not only worked for Becker, you've worked with a number of the companies out here. As a matter of fact, you and I have interviewed with some of your previous entities in the past. How do you feel about this business right now? What's your impression?
I think, we've taken a little bit of a step back in the last couple of years. Attendance has been a little bit lower from what I can see, of course, but it looks like everybody's very energized, and looks like everybody's expecting an uptick at any moment. It's really underway, I think.
Well, Floyd, we really appreciate your time. We're looking forward to seeing what comes out of Becker. I'll be pestering Marcus for the latest and greatest. He's been very good about feeding us a little bit of information in bits and pieces, and looking forward to seeing what's next. Floyd, thanks so much for your time.
Jim.
Alrighty, folks, we're going to take a short break here for just a few moments. You're live from the floor of the 55th Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show at National Harbor, Maryland, just across the river from Washington, D.C., and the rest of the Puzzle Palaces. On deck is Todd Winter of Mid-Continent. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be talking some really interesting technology. We're talking about their battery technology. We're talking lithium. But we're also talking name change. Personally, I've always thought Hugh Grant fit me a whole lot better, but for some reason nobody's going with that. So let's see what's in the future for Mid-Continent. So once again, live from the floor of the 55th Annual AEA Convention and Trade Show, this is Aero-TV.
Aero-TV's live coverage of the 55th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.